Hey guys, this is Titan and I welcome you to another episode of my very own Cities Skylines 2 series, Schwanach. Schwanach is supposed to be a city where we, on a sort of macro detailing level, so we don't go into the nitty-gritty tiny details as I used to do in Cities Skylines 1, but really keep everything on sort of a macro detail, but intend to build a large, thriving and authentic Central European city. In the previous few episodes we built all this area right here, and mind you, for me actually a few months have gone since I did the last episode, as you may have read, the last episode that was released was done months ago already, so I'm really catching up here where I left the city off months and months ago, but it's still working wonderfully, it's looking good, and let's just see what we have here and what we're gonna do today. So, for today's episode, I'd like to concentrate on around, maybe around this area right here. And I'd like to continue the trend we already started in the last episode, where the city starts to drizzle out into suburbia and eventually the countryside, the hillsides, and just fades out into the wilderness is a bit of a wrong term, but fades out into the rural areas surrounding the city. And so first and foremost, I'd like to continue the trend that we started here with these British houses that again work just as nice in its Central European setting, but to spice it up more and not just have a sea of houses and that's all we do today. Of course, I'm gonna include some variations, some blocks. We'll see how that goes down the line, but I have a more interesting idea for today as well, and for that I'd like to quickly jump into Google Maps. So yes, what I want to draw inspiration from we can find in this city here. This is the city of Dresden, my hometown, so I'm very, used to this area and can draw a lot of inspiration from here, and we can see that it's probably a larger city than Schwanach is supposed to be, but I suppose we'll figure that out some more episodes down the line. For today, I'd like to draw some inspiration from roughly this area right here. So the plan is to spice this this suburban area we're currently developing in Schwanach a bit up by including something like this that you can see right here. This is an old river bend, so you have the river Elbe that's cutting through the city, and you can really well see where that river used to flow before it was diverted. I think in that case it wasn't diverted by human activities, but as a result of a natural process, some flooding, for example, or just the natural flow of the river that changed gradually. But it is an interesting detail, and when there are, large flood events, this area indeed gets flooded by the river. Hence, there is no dense development other than some gardens, and this area gets flooded, and through that also serves as a flood protection measure for the remainder of the city, because of course if the river floods and threatens to flood the whole city, water that gets diverted here and collects here protects the city by remaining there instead of flowing to the city right away. So this is what I'd like to do today. Again, some suburban housing as we did here, maybe some blocks sprinkled in between as we can also see here, and then a river bend that or a former river bend that's lightly developed with some farms, maybe with some sports grounds as well, and that sort of forms an island for the other houses that are still there where they used to be. So let's just jump right into the game and just see what we can do. And jumping right in we do, because the first thing obviously we need to do is using some terraforming to really a planned layout, the size and the curvature of the riverbend, but also to just lay the groundworks for all the later development that we can include here as well. And I'm using the sports field here, the football field, as a sort of size measure, because I want to add some sports fields in like on the bottom of this old river arm later down the line, and so I just need to check if the riverbend is indeed large enough for the intended purpose. Otherwise, we're having the main road here, the main road that's coming from the city and will pass out into the countryside or wherever in one of the future episodes, and we're just continuing that here. And I noticed that I don't want it to be super large when it comes to the tram stops. So I'm doing a little thing here again with the road builder mod, and so that we just have a bit of a smaller road there where there is a tram stop, so that road isn't wider as opposed when there is no tram stop. And we'll just see how that works when there's some actual traffic there. Otherwise, the road layout here is very straightforward. You could almost call it a grid, I guess, or at least a very, very irregular grid. Just some things that work there, but otherwise, I think the road layout isn't too special, by itself. And we're just continuing the trend that we already laid down from the previous suburban area. Just continuing that suburban area. Now here on the little island when there's a flood, I want to have little village core, sadly, because we in the German team didn't think of that at all. The only old church I can use is the church from the UK region pack. It's a great building, but it's not a very German looking church. Oh well, it will forever bother me that we sort of forgot to do anything rural, suburban, or along the lines of that, but oh well. In any case, we're back here in, at the bottom of this old river arm, and here I'm plopping down what I already told you, that I want to have some sports areas there, and then there are just some paths that cut all through this area, all through that, former riverbend, just to provide some, or in real life to provide some connections, but also space to just stroll and have a good walk. Now, as I already said at the beginning, I think I think so, I want to do some blocks here as well, so that we don't only have suburban houses, but spice it up a bit more with some irregular blocks here and then, which I think is a very common thing next to these main arterial roads that have very good public transit access, but then also are maybe a bit too noisy for your average detached housing. So there were some blocks with cheaper apartments there as well. And you see here, I'm just deleting everything that these blocks come with, because while usually these random variations are really good, in that case here I want these blocks to be very uniform. You saw that already with the way that I change the color on all of them to have the same color, and now I'm doing the same with some light detailing as well, so that they really appear like they were one development, or built by one developer, or maybe one, what's it called, like communal living? No, I think that's not the correct term. Let's take with a developer, so that they were built by one developer back in the 70s, I suppose, and that they have very uniform look. But otherwise, I think the detailing that I'm doing around them, you see it on the screen. Some bushes, I made a unique road there, or like custom road there, to provide some parking spaces as well. Again, doing a bit of detailing here using the surfaces, so that we just have a bit of a walking path that leads around the building, since they also have some exits at the back of the building. And then I'm providing some very basic background stuff here, with playground things. I guess, amenities. Let's call them amenities. And at the front of the building, just a site for trash disposal. Large garbage bins that serve the whole block. Well, let's say that each serve 3 buildings, so that every block of 3 buildings has its own ones, and some more trees there. And there we are. Off screen I already just detailed the rest of that whole block, and now we can continue on the other side of the street here. And I noticed that I definitely need some more school buildings, so I'm using the modern school building from FynestLyk CCP here, and turn that into a bit more of a suburban high school. And the way that I want to achieve that is, you already see it here, is that I don't place it in a dense urban setting as I think it's supposed to be used, coming from a dense urban setting. But in that case, I'm spacing it out more. It gets a very large plot of land around it. You saw that already with me plopping down the football fields. Also, mind you, I know that the football fields are incorrectly aligned, and I will change that. So please don't write it in the comments. I know I'm aware that they are wrong at the moment. Placing some fences here as a nice detail, I thought, because you often have those tall fences next to football fields, so as to block balls from being kicked out of the field. So I just used some residential fence there and raised that a bit in that hedge. But otherwise, once again, the detailing is very simple. We do some very light stuff here. At the end, again, trees to pull it all together, but it just works. It works quite well in achieving an authentic and used look. Same as I'm doing here with some very light commercial buildings. And now already to the next city block here. Again, I'm doing very, very simple stuff. I placed the I think it was a police station, the UK police station, and I thought that right next to the tram stop we could have some medium density development with some shops in some shops at the ground level to provide some transit oriented development there. I think that was quite fitting next to the tram stop. And then again, some other blocks here, and we're pulling it together with some trees and bushes again. I'm actually quite happy with how this area turned out, and the way that it's quite easy to achieve this look. As another bit of a minor detailing step here, I'm just adjusting the intersection, and also we're providing some more low density commercial stuff on the other side here of the tram stop. So I really want to have some commercial life going on right next to the tram stops, which I think is quite realistic that the city would plan it in a way that the commercial areas are planned so that you can easily access them coming by transit. And I think that also turned out quite nicely how the way it's portrayed in the game here. And I tried to place the bus shelter in the middle there next to the tram tracks, which worked on the other road but doesn't work here, and it drove me insane, and I don't know what happened there. So now we have a detailed tram stop without a little shelter, which bothers me a lot. And if you have any ideas how I can place a shelter there, please tell me, because this is annoying. That indeed was a very large area, but I really liked how it turned out with the bit of variation in the size of development sprinkled in here and there with the blocks, some bit of low density commercial, bit of this medium density right next to the tram stop. Overall, quite satisfied with it. And now we can actually focus on this area right here. Now in this next, supposedly much simpler, but then again more important bit of this episode, I'd like to actually do the focal point, if you will, of this episode, which is supposed to be this area right here with the river bend, the former river bend, and the old village core that is at the center of this river bend. So you could imagine that there used to be a small riverside fishing village that then got incorporated into the city, and the city just grew around it. And you can only trace, you can only trace the shape of this old village core based on a river bend that that just goes around it. And when there's a river flooding, this village core is indeed an island. Although, of course, we have a bridge there that should still be usable when there's river flooding, so there's that. But yeah, let's just do this area in the next bit of this episode, and then maybe we can just do a bit of the surroundings to tie it all together a bit better. And we'll continue straight away with, first of all, developing this little village here, and I have to repeat that and can't stress it enough, it will forever bother me that we did not do any low density stuff in the German region pack. So once again, I have to fall back on using the British buildings here. They look great. They do an amazing job, but they're not necessarily German. But I think they are still regional enough in the sense that they do support the idea of this being an authentic German town with a village core that has been incorporated into the city. So there we go. About the village, it's a very simple village in the sense that it has a church in the middle with a square on either side, and then just buildings in an oval shape all around it. Now the village square has been turned into, you see that little park, there's now a pub there, but still here on the back of the church, so on the other half of the village square, I still want to have an actual village square, and I didn't want to have it paved. So instead, and again, I don't want to use decals from the workshop just yet, so I'll have to resort on using the things that the vanilla game provides, and this is the surfaces here, and I'm just trying my best to combining different surfaces to get a somewhat realistic view of like a dirt village square, which I think using the oil surface together with the forest texture that's semi-transparent, and placing the cafe there, and then removing everything from the playground except the playground itself. I think that works quite well in providing some basic detail there. And staying with basic level of detailing here, not using custom decals. It's a bit of a more tricky situation, but I think it works quite well so far. Now moving on, I thought here in this former river bend we could have one or two small ponds. And this is what I'm trying right here. I'm using the vanilla water sources because back then I did not realize that we in fact have a mod that could do this better than using the vanilla water sources. But oh well, they still work. You just have to be a bit more careful. The idea of using these two ponds here, I think, is quite nice. Once again, I'll have to fall back on using the vanilla surfaces here to provide some detail. But once again, and yeah, this just is sort of the theme of this series, I guess, that you can achieve nice things already with most of things that a vanilla game provides. In that case, I definitely prefer Cities 2 over Cities 1, in fact. Now, what we're doing here in the at the bottom of this river bend, again, the theme I have in mind is a bit that it's an undeveloped land in the sense that it can be used as a flood protection measure because the water that's collecting on that river bend is not threatening the city immediately. And in that sense, when there's no flooding, it's primarily used for leisure activities. So maybe you can even swim in those little ponds. But otherwise, it's used for strolling, for having some nature, so kind of like a city park. In that sense, I'm also using a bit of a manicured grass there to just emphasize that a bit more, that it is indeed also being used as a city park. There we go. And I think that actually works quite nicely in providing a bit more detail there, and also, yeah, just telling how it's being used. And as I said previously, here on that little bit, I'm also just gonna do a little bit of farming. Could imagine that this this land having being very very shallow, having a high level of groundwater, and being more or less regularly flooded is also very fertile. So I think it definitely makes sense to also have some farming going on there. Gonna continue that here, and with that we're also already moving closer to the river itself, where we also need to do some detailing at least. And once again, falling back to using the vanilla, what's it called? Surfaces. The vanilla surfaces. And by that, we're already moving further here. This is all going way too fast. But yeah, I just had the idea of doing some sort of little promenade along the river here, next to the village. And as a basis, I'm using these pocket parks and having a pedestrian path at the back of them. And this little leisure building there that maybe used to be just a barn or something. And once again, as I already did in the last episode, I'm using the pocket parks, deleting the surfaces beneath them to draw my own surfaces, to have some detail there that's actually being used by the citizens. Lastly, as usual, we're using some trees and some bushes to pull it all together. And this will actually be the end of it all. We're close to finish. And I think with that we really have a nice transition from the city center through Suburbia and including this old village core into the countryside, possibly, or we'll see what we can come up with here next time. I actually have a great idea, so maybe stay tuned for the next video and we'll see if my idea indeed works out for this area. But yeah, maybe we can do some work with the Eastern European set right here. I think that could work. For today though, I am really happy with all this and what we achieved today. It was a really big area, and I'm not sure how long that whole episode is, but you'll know. And I'm just guessing it's a bit of a longer episode again, so thank you for staying with me through that whole video. And if you have any ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have names for that district and for that old village core, please write them in the comments and I will see if we have some great names for the district down there that we can use. And yeah, now my friends, that's it for today and for this episode. I will do some cinematics at the end of this video again and probably cut to summertime again. Although it doesn't look too bad actually with the autumn trees, but I still think for the cinematics I will jump to summertime again. Either way, thanks for watching, thanks for staying with me through that whole time and for this video as well. If you want to see more and you want to follow all the other projects I'm hopefully continuing soon, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you really want to get in touch with me or others that follow my work, you can jump onto my Discord server, the link is in the description. And if you really want to support me further with small rewards like early access to videos, or in the future even assets for Cities 2 or Cities 1 already, you can support me on Patreon, the link's in the description as well. And of course, the biggest thanks to the people who already and still support me on Patreon. I love you guys for that, you are amazing. With all that being said, again, thanks for watching, stay tuned, stay healthy, I will catch you in the next video, and until then, have a great week, have a good time, and bye bye!